Hello, 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 and welcome to this morning's interview with Walter Lubeck. We are here, you are here. Look at all of you beautiful people from all over the world. We have Devin and Colorado and Montana and Wyoming and Netherlands and Nevada. And lovely, lovely to see you all. Super excited for this interview today. We're with Walter Lubeck. He is the founder and creator of Rainbow Reiki. He has written 25 books on Reiki. He has been practicing since 1987, and he is a wealth of information. And so I'm just going to say, hi, I'm so excited. Walter, would you like to add on to that introduction for us?
Sure, Christine Renee. Firstly, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm really appreciating that we have this time for interview and that you took the time to, wow, to look so great, you know. I thought, what a, what a treat. Wow, to get interviewed by, Uh, it's something which I like to talk about my vocation, about the things I love to do. I was once in the industry in the 80s, and I was quite successful financially. So economics were really good. I had my penthouse and my sports car and my fun car and everything, my traveling to southern France for vacation, and but I was depressed. So I was constantly depressed all the time. And I thought, what the heck is going on? Because you have the dream life. And every year business going up more. And people tell me, wow, I would have your life. And I thought, "Oh, you have no idea." So, and then I was going to psychotherapy because, well, it was like that. I thought about suicide. I thought about
Mhm.
suicide and I thought, well, before doing suicide, I could look into the yellow pages whether there's something like bodybuilding for the mind. So
Mhm.
because I was in bodybuilding and martial arts and these kind of things, so I was looking there, and there was something a counseling institution. I was going there, and the people there were very friendly, and I was recommended to a lady. A psychotherapist, and we are sitting in the room together, and I was talking about my life and that I was depressed and I don't know why. And afterwards she said, yeah, okay, but tell me about what is with the abortion. And I said, what? Uh, there is no abortion. And I was going on telling her about my life. And after a while, she said, okay, but now tell me about your girlfriend or your wife and the abortion. I said, what are you talking about abortion? I'm talking about my depression. Yeah, she said, but we are here at Pro Familia, and this is a specialized institution for women who think about abortion and want to have a counseling. And I thought that you were coming here because your wife doesn't dare to, or something like that. I said, no, I have no problem with abortion. I just want to have her life back. So she was also having a psychotherapist practice outside of that institution. And I was going there and had for several years psychotherapy in groups and single. And this is where I got some very good idea about what else you could do with your life besides just working and making holiday in southern France. And then, over some recommendations, I come to a naturopathic doctor, and there I learned about Reiki in '87. And at that time, I thought, I need another job. That's not what I want. I was formerly in esoterics, but it was a hobby for me. I had no idea that there were classes you could go to. Like today, people are used to, you go to a weekend class and you get your healing hands, and then you next weekend you go to shamanic class, you get your power animals and so on. At that time, I had no idea. The greatest bookstore in a big town, for big for Germany, not for USA, but for us, it's big. Hanover. It was that size of spiritual books, and then you had chess literature and literature about sailing and tennis. Um, well, at that time, it was a kind of niche market, and I was going to this Reiki class, and I met people there who met angels, and there were Kundalini rising, and they were doing their own shoes because they had better energy. And so I thought that is an interesting way to look at life, if you do these kind of things and make your own shoes. And when I was getting out of that class, whatever I touched for some minutes made my hands burn with heat up to my shoulders. So I thought something has changed. And then I treated everybody who wasn't able to get up on the tree as soon as possible. So I was treating friends and family and friends of friends and friends of friends of friends. And nearly everybody had a much better life after my treatment, and they were relaxed and headaches were going away and they felt better. And they said, wow, I didn't know that something like this existed. And I thought by myself, I neither, I surprised as you are. But after a while, it became my new normal. And so I
Mhm.
thought about, I must have second degree, because at that time, my wife, she had she was diagnosed because of pain in the lower belly with some inflammation, and the doctor said, you need to go for surgery tomorrow. You can sleep one night at home, but tomorrow morning you need to go for surgery. And so we phoned our Reiki master, and she said reluctantly, okay, I can do a distant treatment, but you need to go to surgery. So I was treating my wife, and she was treating, um, the Usui master was treating her, and it became really hard. And after about half an hour, my partner was crying and then was sleeping. Next morning, nothing, no symptoms. And she said, I
Mhm.
can't believe it, because she wasn't able to step stairs. She couldn't do that because of pain. Next morning, she was jumping the stairs. She said, look, I can jump the stairs. I don't feel any pain. I said, well, I have no idea. Maybe you go to the doctor and ask. The doctor then said, if I wouldn't have you had in my practice yesterday with all these diagnoses and the x-ray, I would have said that you just were making this up. It's impossible. You don't have any problem. You don't need to go to surgery. And so no surgery. And I thought, I must have second degree. I must. So next date
Mhm.
was mine. I was going there and learn second degree. And when this was also so impressive, I thought I must go for master, because I want to teach this. This
Mhm.
has helped me so much. It's helped friends so much. I want to pass this gift on. At that time, there were, I think, six Reiki masters in the whole German language area: Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. Six.
Mhm.
So it
And
was a
this was
different
in
time.
the late 1980s, yeah?
It was 1989. Right, right. And then I was doing when I was second degree, I was doing some ongoing education for people with first and second degree, because I found out a lot of things. I'm curious by nature, I'm very curious. So I'm trying things, and if something doesn't work like it should, I try out something different, and was bringing in chakras and yoga and qigong and crystals and name it,
Mhm.
what's not. And that all worked like hell. So I had about 20 something, 28 people in my year long ongoing education class in my wonderful penthouse. And they were meeting there every, I think it was Thursday evening. And we're learning about how to do the chakra treatment and how to balance reflex zones and this kind of stuff. So at that time, I was writing the manual for this on my Atari computer. I don't know whether you know Atari. They once made computers. It was like a small Apple. They
Oh,
were
okay.
the
Sure.
principle was like Apple, but they called it different. But in fact, it was something like Apple. So I was writing the manual. It was a big manual, and after a while, I thought, wow, this is like a book. I should send it to a publisher, but it was more kind of ego pride boasting thing. So I phoned one company that said, no, Reiki is not our thing. You need to go to Winfert Verlag. They do these kind of things. They brought out one book, Winfert, about Reiki. It was one book at the moment, at that time. And I was sending this to the lady I had on the phone. She said, well, I will look into that. And then I thought she will tell me, yeah, if you write some more years and you make something else, then maybe you come back or so on. But she said, well, it looks like a manual, so you have to write it a little bit different, because in 6 weeks we need this for print, and then it goes to the Frankfurt Book Fair. And I said, what? I heard Frankfurt Book Fair. He said, yes, of course, it's a book. And I was a little bit surprised, because I didn't expect that. So I was writing that book, and that is the Reiki Handbook, and it has been translated to more than 20 languages officially. There are some other translations, like to Iran and other
Mhm.
places where people don't, they don't pay. But I, I was, I think I sold about 180,000 pieces just in Germany, and over the whole world, it was about 600,000 or so copies. A lot of them in the United States and Canada and UK, but also in other languages, in Hebrew and Turkish and Polish and name it. So that was my first book, and I love writing. I learned to write, especially when I was doing 3 years a spiritual magazine for Northern Germany. When I was getting out of my company, I had no idea what to do at that moment. I didn't see myself as a Reiki master. So I published a magazine for Northern Germany. At that time, there was just one magazine, and they were very spiritual. So in a way that I don't understand what they read, what they were
Mhm.
writing. So I did my own magazine, was interviewing people, and was writing about books, and putting poems into that. And when some great class teachers, very spiritual people, were bringing me the text, I thought, this is a great text, but nobody would understand what they're writing. So I was
Mhm.
editing the text, and I need to put it into one page, because I just had one page. So I learned a lot about writing there, and that made it very easy for me to write several books. So in the 90s, it was book writing time. I think of the 25 books I wrote, I was writing 20 in the 90s.
Wow.
So it was a lot
Wow.
of stuff. Yeah, yeah. And people were trying to get me to other places. So I was traveling places like Hungary. I had great adventures in Hungary. They were booking me for 6 weeks tour, and they sold within 3 weeks 10,000 copies of the Reiki Handbook. 3 weeks, 10,000 copies.
What do you think made Europe, I mean,
Mhm.
so ready for the material that you were putting out?
Well, that's an interesting question, which I was often discussing with friends, because it was a phenomenon in a way. You see,
Mhm.
I'm not the very best writer in the world, absolutely not. There are people who can write much better than me, but I think it was a mixture of several things which were positive for me. One thing was that at that time, the people who were managing the Reiki community were very, very conservative. So it
Mhm.
was putting on your hands and that's it, forget the rest.
Mhm.
For me, I'm Aquarian with a rising Archer, Um, I cannot do that. I'm sorry, I cannot. So for me, it wasn't karma if something doesn't work. For me, it was I lack the skill to do that.
Mhm.
So I try to get the skill. I try to understand it. And then I try to pass it on, because I think we get this gift from God because God likes us to do something with it. And we
Yeah.
do not preserve it and put it into a box and put it in the shelf and forget it. So I
And
was putting creativity into it.
and it sounds like you were following your divine inspiration. You know, you
Yeah,
weren't putting your own blocks up in your way to what the universe was trying to
yeah,
provide for you.
yeah, yeah. So that was one thing that I put something really new into it. If you read my books, they were always groundbreakers. So I never wrote a book where anybody had put these topics in their books before me. I always
Mhm.
wrote first ones. So, and when I wrote this book, another thing came into it, that I already had a lot of connections because of the esoteric magazine. I knew people, I knew class teachers, I knew senders, I knew other authors, and they knew me because of the magazine. They had trust in me, and they were asking me to get to their centers, their bookshops, and giving classes. And then a third thing, I like to travel. So I was on the road a lot, you know, fairs, bookstores, book signing, talks, and so on. And I treated people, because when I was trained in Reiki, there was a big distance between the master who trained me and the students. The master was quite okay. She was very professional and she did the best thing she could. She was dedicated, nothing against that, but there was big distance. So, for example, when there was lunch break, she was somewhere else, not with a group. And when I was getting master, I thought, I want to be with the people because I'm not better than they are.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right.
So I did big Reiki gatherings. Within 1 week, I was at 5 different cities in a radius of 300 kilometers. That is about 180 miles something. Um,
Mhm.
doing Reiki gatherings, there were up to 100 people who wanted to know more, who wanted to treat each other. And at that moment, there was a big dynamic. So people wanted to know more about Reiki. They wanted to grow with Reiki. They wanted the Reiki to grow. I think this was what was having a kind of leverage effect for what I was doing.
Yes, yeah, I can totally see that you were really
Mm,
moved into that energy of being with your students. And so
yeah,
were you able to do that when you were there for book showings or part of the book lines, or were you teaching and seeing sessions like all over that area as well?
yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
awesome.
did, and I traveled so much. And when I was in different parts like Switzerland, people gathered from all the parts of the country coming together because at that moment you did not have much Reiki masters. When you were
Mhm.
Reiki master, you were like a gorilla in the Arctic, you know. So you that's a must see. And I don't think that I'm Deepak Chopra or something, you know. I'm not a gift to the world. But at that time, a Reiki master was something very special. So people wanted to see me, wanted to talk with me, and I thought if they take the time and the effort and travel there, I want to give them something good in return. So I tried my best to help them.
So, question for you is
Yeah.
coming in. What was your profession before Reiki? What that grew that castle, that empire that you
Well,
that you turned away from?
well, yeah. You see, I had many professions in a way. When I was a teenager, I think I started with doing music when I was 13, and then I started to work in semi-professional bands as a vocalist and a drummer, and earned some money, not much, but for me at that time it was good money. And when I was a little bit older, I was helping other kids with the getting better grades, you know, getting paid for that. And then I was a cocktail mixer, bar mixer, and I was a DJ, and I was working on construction because I wanted to have a good life and I needed money for this, and my family didn't have much. So I was working. Then I was selling insurance, and then I was at the military, and during the time of the military, I was also vocalist in band and selling insurance and these kind of things. And then I was 5 semesters, 2.5 years studying economics sciences
Mhm.
in Hanover. But I stopped that because I had a very interesting experience. I was in the microeconomics class. There were about 500 people and a professor teaching. So not a doctor, a professor, and some student was making a question. I don't remember the question. It was something about how to make money with what we were learning there. And the professor said very seriously, not joking, young man, if I would have any idea how to get rich with what I teach here, you think I would be at the university? You know, that's a different thing here in Germany, being at the university, than in the United States. In the United States, as I heard, you have successful people, but here you have people who have read many books and teaching people, and you know, we have a different system, let's say.
Yeah.
And then I took off the rest of the day and was sitting in my favorite coffee shop drinking cafe au lait and reading the Financial Times and the Wall Street Journal and thinking. And then I thought, because some weeks ago my brother and another partner I knew were offering me a partnership in in a new company. They wanted to start a plastics company doing protectors and stuff for oil drilling and for water
Mm-hmm.
drilling and for mining and these kind of things. And when he made that proposal, I thought, ah, come on, I want to be an academic. I want to have a diploma. And but then after this talk, I thought, that's not my place here. People do things which I think are not what I want to do. I want to do something for real. I don't want to learn something when nobody has an idea what to do with it, you know. So I
Right.
was skipping university and was going into entrepreneurship, and I was traveling a lot. I was traveling to Norway, to Spain, to Netherlands, Scotland, and so on, because I need to go to the oil rigs. I need to go deep into the mines. I
Mhm.
need to talk with the practitioners because I was not only selling, I was also helping to develop products. I was a liaison person to the
Yeah.
customers, you know. So in a way, it was a very interesting job. I was always dirty, you know, even if I had a suit on. I had a suit on very clean in the morning, but in the evening it was grease and
Oh,
dirt
healthy.
and whatever. And it was 2,000 meters under the ground often, you know. But it was interesting, and I made much money because the company worked well and we were building great products. It was going up like that, even if I had to work on Year's Eve and Christmas and whatever. But it wasn't my work.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know
not your
whether you
soul.
understand that. It was good work for someone else, but not for
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So during that time, no, some years before, when I was 15, I started to put my money into stocks. So I was also on the stock exchange with my own money, and made decent money with it to have a good life, being able to travel to France and to other places and have a good car and so on. And there was a time when I was 18, I thought I wanted to be a professional stockbroker. And I met a very impressive person. You won't know the man. He was very famous in Europe at the time, Andrei Costolani. He was a philosopher and a musician, turned very rich man, multi-millionaire at the stock exchange, but his heart was with philosophy and music. And when
Mm,
I was at his classes and I was asking him how to make money with this stock and how to do this strategy and so on, in one of the coffee breaks, he was coming to me and said, "Mr. Walter, what do you want to do with all that money? Take your girlfriend to the opera and have a good time. Don't think about money all the time." Yeah. So I thought he was a very impressive guy. I thought maybe there is something in it. So I started to think differently. I read the Stoic classics, you know, Mark Aurel, and I read Wittgenstein, the philosopher, and Foucault and so on. And I started to make my mind up that there is something else in life. But it took me some more years and some psychotherapy before I was ready to open up to Reiki and to a spiritual path. I think I think money is energy, but working for money is you sell your soul. If you work with money, you are a blessing to the world because you help everyone to have a good quality with the energy which nourishes them. But working for money from that time on was no business for me anymore. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to follow my heart. I wanted to do what I was burning for, you know?
yes, 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 yes. I mean, I feel like I have that conversation so often with people about,
Mhm.
if you follow your passion, it's
Yeah,
okay for the sales to show up for
yeah.
you because that's what's going to help push your business forward, to help wake more
Yeah.
people up, to help healing more
Oh, yeah.
people. Like all of it's part of it. And so I love that. I love that. And I love that we went through kind of your whole journey, and now you've pivoted over to the energy world. You have all these books written. You're still traveling everywhere.
Oh, yes, I do.
You're and so what made you go from book writing to developing Rainbow Reiki, or is starting to integrate these other pieces
Mm.
of practices, other modalities, whether it's, psychology based or shamanic based, and kind of integrate them into what is Rainbow Reiki? And so, can you speak a little bit to that?
Yes, I would love to. Um, you see, now we're getting a little bit weird. We're getting into a strange area.
That's my favorite part.
Because since I was a child, I was remembering former lives, but for many years I didn't know that these were former lives. I thought I have just vivid daydreams and very vivid fantasy. But when I when I was getting into second degree, things started to turn within me. I was then being aware of the aura, the chakras. I was hearing the guardian angels of people I was treating. And I developed my own method of aura chakra reading, which I teach since this time. It is completely different from what else is in the books. It really works. It works within 10 minutes. So I guarantee that I can help everybody within 10 minutes to understand how to be aware of the auras and the chakras and read them to an extent that they know exactly what to do psychologically and with energy work to help other people. So that's one of my favorites. But one of the things which happened then was that my memories of former lives became so intense. And at that time, I understood more and more these were former life memories, that I started to get things out of my past. I never wanted to go there. but it just came to me.
Mhm.
Then in the beginning of the 90s, my Kundalini started to rise again because I made a Bodhisattva vow in many lives before. And whenever you turn 28, 29, when you have that Bodhisattva vow made, you you make a decision whether you want to follow that this life or not. And I made the decision to follow that. At that time, not knowing about that, that came 1, 2 years later, but I made that decision. I made it from my heart. It was real. So my Kundalini was rising again. I became enlightened. That was in France, not in southern France. It was Bretagne, Normandy, Mont Saint Michel, that area, when I was waking up in the middle of the night and I loved everything. But it wasn't this pink glasses. So everything is all right. It was everything is all right, but I understood perfectly, very clearly, all the wonderful things and all the bad things going on in the world, and I could open my heart to that. So my heart was open to the here and now. And from that moment on, I had to run a lot. I was a fan of running since my childhood, but from that moment on, for years, I had to run 5 times, 6 times, 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers per run because I needed to get rid of the energy until my system was able to use it. Yeah. So that
Yes.
was the time when my system became, let's say, I don't know a better expression, authentic or a signature thing. Before I was combining things I knew from yoga and qigong and martial arts, which I have done before, integrating that, and that was quite new to the community, but it wasn't what I was doing later. Later I was integrating from my past life memories, symbols, mantras. I was expanding initiations, was putting in more classes into the system until mid of the 90s. I think it was 96 or so. I started to regularly name my classes Rainbow Reiki. Before I said this is Usui Reiki, but at that time I thought no, it's not. It's based on Usui Reiki, and
Mhm.
I put a lot of time and effort into researching what Usui and Tayashi and Takata did. So I'm one of the few masters worldwide who know about the past of Reiki, and this is why I wrote books about that together with William Rand and Ajava Petta, and
Mhm.
they are today even standard.
This guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So it was getting more and more open, this bridge to the past, and since the 2000s, it was one big impact after the other. So I was developing completely new things. Today, just to give you some ideas, I can help people like that 100 people in a room to have a straightened hip. So you can measure that. Before I do this, they don't have a straight hip. Afterwards, they are straight. I can do allergy deletion like this. I can make people stronger, 30 to 40% stronger within 10 seconds. That's something people can measure. And I teach this to others so they can do this too. And that is just a little bit what I'm doing. In Rainbow Reiki, there are 20 different classes, initiation classes, with completely different content. So when I heard people say, yeah, I need to go to, I don't know, applied kinesiology class or this kind of class to learn how to do that, I thought, why shouldn't it be possible to do this with Reiki? And then I was just looking into my memories and then I was grabbing things out because in Lemuria, and this is where I had my most happiest lifetimes. Um, they were doing a lot with Reiki energy. Of course, Usui wasn't there, at least not with the name Usui. And they didn't have Japanese symbol because it was Lemuria. It was 12,000, 13,000 years ago. But they were working with Reiki energy and they had a lot of good ideas, these Lemurians. And so I was uh, getting things from that time into our times. And this was also how my shamanic school, White Feather Shamanic School, Lemurian Tantra, three rays meditation, and alike was started. It was memories. I'm a very, very lazy person. So I like to remember something and I like to channel something. Most of my classes I channel because I'm very lazy. Otherwise, I would have to prepare myself really, and I just want to have my cappuccino and I want to
I
read a good novel and cuddle with my cat.
I love that because I was teaching a Reiki Masters class on Zoom last night,
Mm.
and people were, you're talking about how to begin a class or how I go,
Yeah.
no, I just get out of the way. Like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm really
that's
getting out
it.
of the way and letting it come through. I'm letting Reiki speak through me and
Yes.
letting what shows up shows up. It's like once you get into that space, once you get into that groove, it's really it is the lazy way. I don't know if I would
Yes.
term it that way, but but it's like you're just letting your gifts, your higher self, and that
Yes.
connection to divine and that connection to the past come flooding forward. And if you have that openness, if that you have that awareness to just bring it forth, all things are possible.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. This is something I love so much. I'm ill since my childhood. Since I had whooping cough, I had always problems with gaining weight and with the immune system and so on. So I am a professional in knowing how to survive with chronic illness. I knew so much because without that I wouldn't be here. And my
Yeah.
experience is, even if I was completely down and out when I was getting into a class, there were the angels, there was Reiki, there were the guides, and giving me the strength and giving me a good mood and telling me, come on, this is why you are here and you will be able to do that. We make sure you can. We have your back.
Mhm. Yes. Oh my
That
gosh.
was,
Because I too, a lot of people who know my story, I'm dealing right now. I'm in the middle of autoimmune flare, and
oh,
people are like, "Are you sure you're okay?" Going live, I go,
mm,
"No, no, no.
yeah,
When I'm here, by the end of this program, I will feel better.
yes, yes.
I have all of my spiritual team and my support, and so doing my work is healing for me. The Reiki is moving through me first, and then I'm offering it to others, right?"
It's exactly what you say. I feel the more we talk with each other, you're a very very much related soul.
Well, and I feel like, I hear this story a lot about how, especially Reiki practitioners who have these strong past life
Mm.
connections, especially to those early Lumerian times, chronic health issues come to the surface. It's like, and, I'd love to hear your opinion on this, even though it's quite a tangent, but still on spiritual journey topic.
Yeah,
Um, I feel like we're a multi-dimensional being stuck in this 3D realm, and is that what's bringing these chronic health issues up? What's your take on, you know, being in these human bodies,
yeah,
uh, and having these chronic illnesses come up as we are spiritual workers?
yeah. I think that is the Chiron principle. I'm in the verge of writing a book about that. Chiron is an asteroid, a small planet,
Mhm.
which has very strange orbit around the sun, approximately between Mars orbit and Jupiter orbit. And the story is that the mythological Chiron was a centaur, so and something a mixture of human and a horse. And Chiron was the leader of the centaurs, and he was a demigod, and he was wounded by his very good friend Hercules, um, not on purpose, but because Hercules was throwing a intoxicated arrow to another warrior who was invading the tribe of Chiron, and accidentally was hitting Chiron. So Chiron was a demigod, or is a demigod, and he cannot be killed, but he had this pain from the toxin, had to live with it. So
Mhm.
the Chiron planet is in conjunction to my birth sun. That
Mhm.
is happening seldomly, um, and I have this wound within myself. So sun is who you are, and I have directly this wound there. But the planet Chiron also tells you about your spiritual talents, because this is where the borderline between the material world and the spiritual world is thinnest, where
Mhm.
you most easily can get in contact with your divine self. And I always had the experience that my illnesses were giving me a boost like a trampoline. Whenever I was really down, I had my most creative phase. During the last 12 years, I was so ill, but it was the most creative time. So the systems I'm teaching today, they are way better than 12 years before, because
Mhm.
I was putting so much of my experience in it. And I often was so exhausted that my big, big ego wasn't getting in the way of what they wanted to bring down.
Mhm.
So I think that this is like the shaman death thing. You know, you might have heard about that, that shamans have to die and reborn, the phoenix principle. I don't think that people really have to die, but it's often, especially with people like me with a big ego, that you need to get very weak to
Yeah.
open up to the divine and tell the divine, see, whatever you think is right, just do it, and I'm fine with it. So tell me what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I feel like in my own practice and those other clients that I have who have chronic illnesses, it's almost spirit needs us to get into this place of
Yeah.
slow down, weakness, reevaluate so that we can truly hear them. And I feel like that's also what's going on in this time in the world with the pandemic,
Oh
with
yeah.
the social
Oh.
unrest. All of these things is it's like a giant timeout for everyone to go, let's reevaluate.
Oh, definitely, definitely, Christine Renee. See, I was giving some classes about this, the spiritual symbolism of the COVID-19 crisis about 6 weeks ago. And I see it, if you look at it from the point of view of the Hermes Trismegistus laws, you know, as above, so below, as within, so without, as in the big, so in the small. This that one of the focus of the illness is the lungs. It burns the lungs so that we can hardly breathe. Now look at planet Earth. What are we doing to the Amazon rainforest, to the rainforest in Africa, to the
Right,
rainforest in Canada and in Rocky Mountains and uh, Asia? These are the lungs of our planet. We are burning them. We are
right,
burning them. So this happens to us. And the central nervous system, that we cannot think clearly anymore. Well, I won't say that everybody is not able to think clearly, but as a race, there is no animal so dumb to ruin their own area of living as humans are.
right.
We think we are a crown of creation. There is even a book written that we should make the rest of the world obey to us. I don't think that this is God given, because we are not that wise.
Yeah,
Nature is wise. We are not. I'm a shaman, so I like to work with nature. And when I listen to nature, I see that they are the super computers who make the whole planet work since billions of years. And with our industrial revolution for some 100 years, we nearly ruined everything. So how wise are we compared to the Aboriginal people in Australia, to the Bush people in Africa, to the Inuit and so on? How wise are we? Come on.
right. Yes, yes. So, on that note, I would love to understand how you have integrated shamanic work in the Rainbow Reiki. And is it a different school? Like, is Rainbow Reiki a separate school from the White Feather Shamanic School, or are they integrated?
Well, these are different schools, so different classes. But
Mhm.
in my understanding, according to the research I did, Reiki has shamanic rules, because not rules, not roots, sorry. Um,
Yes, yes.
what Usui did was meditating and doing rituals for 3 weeks in the nature where there is a spring, and then he was hit by a big white light in the head, which is in a way initiation. And if you study the history of the ancient Reiki symbol, you come to China.
Mhm.
The Japanese people don't hear it, they don't like to hear it, but either things were coming to them from China or from Korea, even the emperor's family. And there was so much about shamanism in China. There was a Wu shamans, and their personal symbol. So to identify Wu shamans is the Reiki symbol. They called it in China Ling Chi, the same symbol, but instead of Reiki, they say Ling Chi. Up until today, Ling Chi is a known thing in Qigong.
Mm.
Because I do inner martial arts since I'm a teenager, I got some contacts. This was why I traveled Hong Kong and was visiting people there, Qigong masters, and asked them about Ling Chi. And these Wu shamans, guess what they did to get their famous healing powers? They were going for 3 weeks meditating on one of the holy mountains in China until they were hit by a big light in the forehead. So reminds me in a way or another to what Uzui did, isn't it?
Yeah, Right.
And if you look into the meaning of the ancient symbol, it is a shaman, a miko, that means a female shaman, doing a ritual for a client. And there are these three little squares. And the three squares, they are the three Hun souls. The Hun souls are residing, according to Chinese medicine, in the liver. They are eternal, they are divine.
Mm.
Then there are the Po souls, and the Po souls, Po, um, they are made. They are made when you are conceived, and they die a few weeks after the body is dead. So they are like the ego. They are like the human operation system, HOS, you know. And these Hun souls you will find in the Pacific spiritual traditions like Huna as inner child, middle self, higher self, Uni, Pili, Aumakua, and so on. So
Yes.
when these three are at the same level, when they have the same opinion made by the ritual of the shaman, then magic happens. Everybody who practices Huna can tell you that. You need to put the middle self, the higher self, the inner child into the same boat that they say, yes, this is what we want. And then it happens. Of course, it happens. The blessings, the rain comes from above. So
Yeah.
if this is not shamanism in the Reiki symbol, I have no idea about shamanism at all. So Reiki doesn't come from nowhere. Usui did not come from nowhere. So
Mhm.
I was not only researching what Usui did because he was only 4 years teaching Reiki. And within these 4 years, he was doing every year something different because he develops a system, what every good teacher does. But he came from a background. 10 years before he discovered Reiki, he was already in a yearbook of famous Qigong masters of Japan,
Mm.
being promoted as one of the most knowledgeable, one of the strongest key masters. So he was deriving his knowledge from shamanism, from Shinto, which is also in a way a shamanic method, from esoteric Buddhism, which is a shamanic Buddhism kind of, and all these
Yeah.
derived their knowledge from China, from Taoism and the Wu shamans. So for me, White Feather Shamanic School and Rainbow Reiki are two branches, but
Mm.
on the same trunk.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the people that are doing these things together, whatever people study in my school has the same roots. So whether you study aura chakra reading, meeting the angels, three rays meditation, the Murian Tantra, white feather shamanism, rainbow Reiki, they have all the same trunk, the same roots, because this is where I come from. I teach from my memories. I did this in Lemuria. I did this in southern India, in Egypt, in Greece. So it was always the same thing. This is why I said I'm very lazy. I don't learn much, you know. I just practice what I already did.
I can relate. Yep. Uh-huh. I love it. I love it. Um, I'd love to open it up to our group. Does anyone have any questions? Um, Anyone want to further ask Walter anything? I know one of the questions that came up is, what's the difference between Rainbow Reiki and Usui Reiki? And I think you just answered that. Like, you got this wonderful trunk,
Yes,
and now we
yes,
have the different
yes,
branches.
I do. I do. See, Uzui Reiki, um, we must firstly understand, does not exist. There is no defined Uzui Reiki. If you just look out, there are thousands of different styles which have some things in common, some, but which are also very different in many other things, which I don't have any problem with it. But if you ask, what is the difference between Uzui Reiki and Rainbow Reiki? I cannot really answer because the problem is that there is no Uzui Reiki which you can define. Let's say, what does Rainbow Reiki do, which most of the Reiki people don't do with Reiki? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So what we have in Rainbow Reiki is initiations, and the initiations are based on Takata initiations, but they are expanded. So, for example, there is no need to have some months between first and second degree. Some schools teach this today. I don't need that because I have built in something which make people more stable. The center is being supported. Then we do astral traveling with Rainbow Reiki. We do hip correction. We do joint correction. We do allergy deletion. We have lots of methods um, that help the subconscious to pull in more Reiki.
Mhm.
Because one of the problems with Reiki is if the body is not pulling in enough to heal, then you cannot do much. So I invented a lot of strategies how to let the subconscious know that it needs to pull in Reiki. Then we have specialties for dealing with fears, insecurities, forgiving. We have a very strong, very intense forgiving method. We can correct the spine without any mechanical force. We can put the joints where they belong to the vertebra. We can help people to detox very intensely, and this all can be done with very short time. So you do
Yeah.
not have to treat for 2 hours every day. You do things within 20 seconds or 3 4 minutes. You can do kind of psychotherapy with the methods I have invented because often people cannot decide. We have special decision making tools. We have also tools to help people to get in touch with the hidden wisdom, with the hidden knowledge, the skills. There's a way to help with Rainbow Reiki someone who wants to draw better, who wants to learn faster something, who wants to be good with skiing and so on. So developing your skills is much faster. Then we have something to develop the body of light, which means what relates your angelic existence to your physical existence. That is a very spiritual thing, but people who like to go for it, they have very much resources in Rainbow Reiki. Then, of course, we can work with crystals. We can charge crystals, and we have a special crystal, which is the name is Laya Tian. You can store vibrational medicine in the crystal. You can um, use the crystal for allergy deletion. You can use it for promoting, supporting the elements, putting in more fire, water, earth, and air into someone, or getting this away from the person. We can faster regeneration. We can do faster regeneration. For example, one person was examined in the CT scan that a vertebra in the back was broken several times, and there was a date set for surgery because otherwise he would end up in the wheelchair. So I think 4 weeks, a Reiki master was healing the person with this method for regeneration. And after this time, there was a CT scan right before surgery, and there was nothing to be seen that there was any problem whenever. So there was no surgery needed. So there are lots of tools with which you can do things where otherwise you could not use Reiki, or you could not use Reiki in a time frame which is acceptable for people.
Mhm.
Like in the first degree, you learn Mayana Saji. That means within 3 minutes, you build up a whole body treatment, then you activate it. And for 20 minutes, this method is running on its own. You don't have to put your hands on the body, but all the positions you have set up before are being treated, and you can integrate for this also special positions, crystals, and so on. If you have put in crystals, symbols, aroma oils, and so on, you can store this as a macro. That means next time you use it, you just have to call down the macro with a macro mantra and a special word for that macro. And you don't have to have the crystals and scents and so on. It's all in the macro, and you
Mm.
can treat several people at the same time, and you do this on a virtual body of a human. If you treat an animal, our matrix, the Rainbow Reiki matrix, calculates what you do for a virtual human body to the body of a dog, of a cat, of a spider, of a bird, whatever. So you don't have to know the anatomy of that bird.
Yeah.
And because it's a fully valid distant treatment, you can treat 100 people at the same time. No big deal. Yeah.
It
So
feels
these are
very
some.
efficient.
Yeah, it is. It is. I'm a fan of efficiency. I think people don't have much time, but they need the healing. So
Yeah.
do I have to tell them you need more time? They know they need more time, but they don't have it. They have 2 jobs, they have 3 jobs to make ends meet. They have kids to bring to the school, to the sports events, and so on. What do I have to tell them that they have to make more time? They can't make more time. They have lots of things to do. So I try to shape the Reiki methods in a way that with the limited time they have, they can do miracles.
Mhm.
Rainbow Reiki is the miracle way of Reiki.
Love it. So Yvonne has a question. She wants to
Yeah,
know that she believes that healing with Reiki can happen instantaneously within seconds,
yes,
as you mentioned. But what
yes.
happens when the soul chooses not to receive Reiki because this is a lesson for them? Does the energy remain in the aura until it's received by the person? Question mark, question mark.
No, the soul, in my experience, after 30 plus years of Reiki and thousands of clients, never rejects Reiki, not one time. What rejects Reiki is the ego.
Mm,
The soul can learn lessons in 100,000 ways, but the ego does not want to walk most of these ways.
yeah.
So the ego wants to suffer because it says, I will stick to my beliefs, I will stick to my ignorance, and I will not make you interfere with that. So I choose to be ill. So you can tell me whatever you want, I stay here. That does not mean that any illness is an ego thing. Of course, there is a kind of illness which teaches you, but that does not mean that you cannot have healing. See, if God does not want you to be healed, you will not be healed. But to tell people that I know what God wants
Mhm.
is not very wise in my understanding. I have no idea what God wants. But when I do my best and I pray for the rest, there will be either a development, a personality development in the client, or there will be a physical healing, or there will be both, but there will be an effect. I have never seen that the soul wants to suffer, that the soul wants to be ill. That is something the churches sold us, that we should believe that suffering is something which we need. We don't. We choose it.
Yeah. Yeah. Another question come in. Do
Mhm.
you think current rights movements such as LGBTQ, queer rights, and Black Lives Matters is a part of a mass consciousness for divine inspiration,
Yes,
similar to the belief of people with chronic illnesses?
yes, yes. And I will explain why a little bit. Because since I'm a teenager, I know LGBTQ people, and I have always had friends of different ethnicities. And I never was aware of that they are different than I was. They might have other food, but if someone prefers hamburgers and another one wants to eat, I don't know, beans, that does not mean they have different incompatible personalities. Then there is a lot of scientific research that about 5% of any population are LGBTQ, but the rest, most of the rest, is bisexual and not hetero. If they would not be bisexual, we would not have friendship. That is an emotional basis for that. The Black Lives Matter is a very important movement for me. Why is this so? Because I think that police and army are good people which should give us a structure where we are in peace. But if you separate police and army from the rest of the population, and if you put in radical ideas and mobbing on focus groups, then police and army are between a rock and a hard place. Whatever they do is wrong. And I think it's time, it's really time to get a new idea into our society that it doesn't matter what kind of sex life you prefer, it doesn't matter what color of skin you have, it matters that you are a living being. And it is okay to go on the streets and to ask for these rights because in your constitution, and in constitution of Germany and other civilized countries, it's already written in there. We just have to follow these laws. This is by law. It is not an exemption from the law. Do I support radicalism? No, not at all. I do not think that anybody needs to be hit, that anybody needs to be shot at. And if people are running around and tell about white pride, I'm not proud that I'm white. I'm proud that I helped someone who is ill. I'm proud that I was teaching a mother to take care for the child, but I'm proud because I think this is something good, not that I am better than they are.
Mhm.
A teacher needs a student like the student needs a teacher. We are not better. We help each other. My
Yes.
life sign of the I Ching is the well. And if there is nobody to get water out of the well will get rotten. So I need my students and
Mhm.
I need all the wonderful people in the whole wide world. And I think that it's just the right moment that the COVID-19 crisis hit us, helping us to be more sensible, to be more open, that we were putting into a state of awe, so to say, that that little virus puts our whole technology, out of the roots. And now we can rethink, do we really want to deal with all this like we have done that? It's a shame that if you think how many percentage of ill people are in the United States compared to places like, I don't know, Nigeria. Yeah. So, and I do not talk only about United States. You could say Middle Europe or you could say Australia. What we do is we have a system which prefers a special group within society, but the whole society was building up that society. So everybody should have free medical service. Everybody should be protected when walking the street. Everybody. So, yes, I'm very much for LGBTQ and Black Lives Matter. And I'm very fond of that many people in Germany were going on the streets and telling we feel with our brothers and sisters. That's what
Mhm.
I do. And
Wow.
what I don't like is mobbing.
Mhm.
Mobbing means, like I have read, people say that Oprah Winfrey is imprisoned because of being a pedophile. And people think this is serious. This is mobbing. They tell these things about other people who are very, very much in the focus of the media. And you see, I was brought up by my father with a very simple idea. As long as someone is not proven to be guilty, he is innocent. So, how can we do this to someone that we know from hearsay that they did something wrong and we take this as truth? We do not use the legal system. We do not use the police, the FBI. We just think, I've read this on Facebook and I trust this person. And now I say this person over there is a criminal. When I do this, three fingers are pointing at me.
Mm.
I cannot be a spiritual person and do something like this to another person, knowing that I can be wrong.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
If I think I can be wrong and I tell something like this about another person, I am a criminal. And this is no excuse that I say, well, it's a spiritual thing that I. No, it's not spiritual. It's not spiritual. I have never seen an angel doing something like this. And angels, since I'm a little child, are walking with me. I can see them like I see you. I talk with them like I talk with you. I have never seen an angel doing something like this. I don't like mobbing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that answer.
Yeah.
All right, one more and we're going to wrap it up here, guys. So, Bridget asks, how do I know if I need further training in addition to her current Reiki training to feel the most effective for others? Like, how would you recommend someone taking
Mhm.
your Rainbow Reiki classes if they've already been in the tradition of Reiki for some time?
Well, if you have studied traditional Reiki, you will learn in the first degree about 99% new things. And if you ask yourself, am I able to do within that time a hip correction for 20 people at once? If I can do it that time, something to make others stronger, measurable, or delete allergies, and you cannot, then you need to come to Rainbow Reiki.
Mm-hmm. All right. That sounds like a concise answer.
But I need to stress something out. I have great respect for Usui Reiki, any kind, because I know many great Reiki teachers, and that I have specialized in certain things does not mean that Usui Reiki is not a wonderful thing. It is. And we all need that. And see, one thing which I guess is very important always to understand, we are all working with the same energy. We are all working with Reiki. And like with any other art in life, you can always learn more. Whether you have to learn more, that depends on you. Some people have a BA, some have an MA, and some make a doctor, uh, but you don't have to. What is important is, what do you need and what makes you happy? And if you are happy with placing your hands on your body after first degree and enjoying the wonderful energy, and this is it for you, you don't need Rainbow Reiki.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's important for me, because even if I'm a fan of what I do, I love that. This is why I developed this. Listen to your heart, and your
Yes.
heart will tell you what you need, and stay with it and be proud. Walk proud, because the simplest thing you do with Reiki is the greatest thing if it works for you.
I love that. I love that. And I'm in the same boat. I feel like
Mhm.
all walks on the path of Reiki are honored and
Yes,
good and
yes, yes.
positive. And as long as you're practicing, like
Of course.
practice every day, do Reiki every day, have the
Put your
Reiki
hands on.
lifestyle. Yes. So if someone wanted to start out reading one of your books, which one out of all of them would you say this is the one you should start with?
Well, today, I think if you already got Reiki, read The Spirit of Reiki, which I co-authored together with William Lee Rand and Dr. Petta, right?
This is one
If,
of the ones I have. Oh my.
yeah, and if you want to know more about the roots of Usui Reiki and the symbols, get the big book of Reiki symbols.
Mm,
And if you want to know about the spiritual path of Reiki, so what is it I can get out from my path? It's Reiki Way of the Heart, because it
mm.
teaches you about what you can expect from Reiki as a spiritual path.
So if folks wanted to find your books or learn more about Reiki Rainbow, what's your website? Where do you keep all of your goodness?
Oof, the books you find at Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and other booksellers. My website is www.walterlubeck.com. But as you are organizing me, people can also ask you about more information, and I think that is a good idea.
Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. Yay. Yvonne says, I have that book. I'm like, I mean, I have a cabinet maybe of probably 20 or so Reiki books. And two of them are your books. And I'm like, well, look at
Wow,
this. I've already got some in my, I read these ones. I love that.
great.
I love it. Well, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for joining
Thank
with
you.
us. Um, Everyone, thank you so much for being here. We had a wonderful presentation. And once again, thank you so much, Walter, for
Thank you,
being
Christine
here.
Ray.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye. Thank you.